Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Understanding Microsoft Agents. I'm your host, Daniel Carrasco, Product Marketing Manager, Copilot Studio, and with me, Sarah Critchley. Sarah, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to be here, everyone.
Awesome. As I was saying, today we are going to learn more about Microsoft Agents. We are going to share how to bring your own agent into Microsoft 365 Copilot. We have prepared great material for you. We want to show you an end-to-end example so that you have clarity on how to do this on your own. So stay tuned. We're going to share great things for you. So very happy to have the opportunity to show you how to bring your own agent into Microsoft 365 Copilot. But at any moment, if you have questions, please feel free to add your questions into the Q&A, and we will be answering, and somebody is already helping us with answering the question. So please do so. So let's jump in. So agents, AI agents, right? Sarah, what is an AI agent?
I think that's like the $1 million question at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
What actually is an agent? The way like I kind of pass it in my mind is like kind of, back a couple years ago, we used to kind of say, use an agent or a copilot back then would be anything that uses an LLM, and it's really transformed. Like if we think about the definition of an agent, that's really transformed to be really an agent's anything that uses like an orchestration engine. It uses an LLM, of course, but also things like tools and actually can perform actions and really works asynchronously or synchronously. And Daniel and I will cover a little bit about what that means when we talk about async or autonomous. But that's really the most simplest definition I think you're going to find.
So you have the brains. Now we're going to give the agent hands. We're going to give eyes and ears, right? So that the agent can perform as a human being, pretty much. So we have a spectrum of agents, right? So we have basic agents and complex agents. So Sarah, what are the complexity that developers and people can build with agents so far?
Oh yeah, so the way I explain this is really like think about it from a maturity kind of level. Me and Daniel got to cover a little bit about the how, but if you think about kind of conceptually, we really try and give you a kind of the tools to create agents that really start with really simple basic tasks, right? And really can then perform much more complex tasks, as well as and that could also include more complex architecture. That's we're in the multi-agent domain over to the right. So that's probably the best way to think about it when we take that definition of agents and what are agents. Then it's really a case of, okay, what is that kind of that maturity curve of where do I start? And it really, a lot of it directs where you begin and how you start building agents.
Right. So basically, you have the opportunity to build your agent for the task that you have, right? For the use case that you have. If you want to make it very simple, you can create a retrieval agent. If you want to add some complexity, you can add tasks to the agent. Or if you want to make it fully autonomous, then you have autonomous agents. But what about the technology and the building blocks that are powering agents? So I know we have shared this slide pretty much, but tell us, Sarah, what are the components of an AI agent?
There's a reason we've shared this slide a lot, and it's because it's my favorite slide and it's the best slide in my opinion of all of the slides. So really this, and I genuinely mean that, this slide really explains and double clicks on kind of everything that we've just been talking about, right? So let's start from the bottom and we'll go straight to the top. And so obviously we've got your foundation, we've got the model, we've got the LLM, right? So I don't really think there's much else to talk about from the LLM perspective. You bring your LLM based on what you want to use. And then really going up the middle left, you've got the orchestrator, which is, as kind of Daniel said, it's kind of the brains, right? Like think about it as the orchestrator. And you can, and it integrates with really everything on the right. So your orchestrator integrates with your knowledge, it provides your grounding. It also has your tools, essentially your actions, like what do you want your agent to do? Typically, this is really where we kind of have this umbrella term of tools, whether that's MCP servers, whether that's direct APIs, functions, whatever you want to do. And really, this is kind of the stuff that is not inside the agent. And you want to kind of delegate out to perform and connect to the rest of your architecture. And then you've got the autonomy, which is really a lot of this is really more about kind of like memory, more about the orchestrations, capabilities, and that kind of stuff. Really, from when we kind of talk about autonomy, again, it's a catch-all term. Then if we go kind of at the top, really, we've got the publishing and management side of things. And I kind of describe this as kind of like the connecting to your UX. This is kind of the last leg of the journey, which technically shouldn't be last, but we've got the, how do I connect? Where do I want my agent to be? Do I want it to be, you know, in specific like channels or clients? And how is it going to surface within your organization? Now, typically we think about that in channels or clients like teams, but that, as Daniel said, it could be autonomous. So it doesn't have to show up in clients. You can absolutely make an agent that doesn't ever interact with people.
Right. So. And now you can have agents that also interact with other agents that interact with people, and agents that interact with systems. So you have a full spectrum of communication between agents and personas, agents and systems. So the complexity is getting deeper and deeper, right? So we have defined very quickly what is an AI agent, the components of an agent. Now, how do we build an AI agent? What do we have available for our customers and developers?
Oh, we have, well, start from the left again, right? So take again, hopefully me and Daniel are doing a good job of kind of like trying to build the Lego like bricks bit by bit for you all, right? And so again, if we think about that maturity curve from the most simple use case, you know, if I just want to kind of build out a very simple kind of like retrieval agent, like kind of I want like a Q&A agent almost. This is where you have Copilot Studio Lite, right? Previously known as Agent Builder. And so this is really where you can start from the left. And this is typically available for people in an organization to just go do and work with and create. And so you don't really have to think about your software development lifecycle too much on the far left. Again, there's obviously elements to it, but typically this is the realm of I'm making an agent for me, and I've been given the tools to go ahead and do that. And then as we kind of move to the center of this screen, you've got the actual full Copilot Studio. This is where you've got a much more focused software development lifecycle you need to think about. This is where you've got much more tools and capabilities available to you to go and really build. Again, if we're moving further into the realm of building more complex agents, obviously you can use Copilot Studio to build simple agents if you want to. It's just, again, the right tool for the job, or the best tool for the job, and where to begin. And then on the furthest side on the right, we've got code. And so we have developers that want to go use, you know, C#, JavaScript, Python, etc., to go build an agent, and they can go do that. And again, you're kind of opening up to, you know, much more flexibility as code gives you. And with that becomes a much more stringent software development lifecycle that you have to think about, because you have to think about your code and versioning and how you want to manage that.
With more power comes more responsibility, let's say.
Exactly.
With code,
yes,
right? So,
yes.
and that's what we are going to show you today. So we are going to focus in the code part. This is a very powerful tool set that we're going to share with you so that you start using the toolkit, the SDK, and Azure AI Foundry. So we are going to start with Azure AI Foundry, and I'm going to show you. And that's the typical case, right? So you have an agent. That agent is not built in Copilot Studio. That agent can be built in Azure AI Foundry or in other clouds. We're going to show you how to bring that agent into Microsoft 365 Copilot. So let me share my screen. So this is live, by the way. So we are very brave to show you this live, so that you can see that everything here is actually real. So let me share my screen really quick.
And as you do that, Daniel, I just want to call out that we purposely not like really shared, aside from Copilot Studio, of course, really any kind of tools, and we've not talked to, you know, on specific SDKs at this point, because we wanted to explain the core concepts to you first.
That's right. So sharing my screen, let me know. Can you see my screen?
Yep, you're good to go.
Awesome. So we are in Azure AI Foundry, and I have deployed already an agent. Let me show you what this agent is about. So as in the architecture that Sarah was mentioning, we have different components for this agent. In this case, remember we have instructions, knowledge, and action. You have the orchestrator, and you have also the foundation model, and then the interaction with other agents and with the user, right? So in this case, we have created an agent based on a foundation model, in this case, GPT-4o. The good thing about Azure AI Foundry is that we have thousands of models that you can choose and select. In this case, for the purpose of this exercise, I have selected GPT-4o. Now, I'm providing instructions to this agent, basically how this agent will behave, what are the capabilities that the agent will do, what questions will answer, what questions will not answer, and how it will respond to customers. In this case, we are creating an agent to help us understand how to build other agents. So this is a Microsoft 365 Agents Technical Guide agent. So basically, it shows you what the tool to use, if you need to use Copilot Studio, if you need to use the toolkit, if you need to use Azure AI Foundry. So we are providing basic instructions, some goals about it, what is the tone and the style of this agent, and also some safety guidelines about how to respond properly. Then we can provide an agent description. This is basically just for the developer to understand what this agent is about. This will not influence how the agent behaves. And let's go a little bit deeper into the knowledge sources. So basically, what we are giving here is a RAG pattern to the agent to start bringing information from an external source and ground the responses into any documents that we have provided for the agent to be more precise. In this case, I have created an agent based on the RAG for frequently asked questions and objections about how to build agents in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So this is a Word document, and we are using this as a source for the agent to start granting the responses. And then the tools part, we can give any tools as we want, from open API specifications, which we in the past we called plugins. It can be also Azure Logic Apps, it can be Azure Functions. And in this case, I have selected a predefined tool that is code interpreted for the agent. And then some settings about temperature, how precise do we want the agent to respond? You want to be more creative, you want to be more aligned to the knowledge sources, and so on and so forth. So this is an AI agent, pretty much in Azure AI Foundry and in other clouds. The same approach applies here. Now let's see this agent here. We are gonna test this agent in the agents playground from Azure AI Foundry, and then let's see if it's working. So let's ask a question. What can you do? And then it's gonna respond based on the instructions, knowledge, and actions that we have provided. In this case, I can help design, build, test, and publish Microsoft 365 agents. And then we have the different options from the knowledge sources and instructions that we have provided. And this agent is ready. So this agent can be published to your own websites. You can do whatever you want with this agent, and then you can see the code in here. So let's make a quick recap. So an Azure AI Foundry agent based on GPT-4o. We have provided instructions, knowledge, and actions. This agent is ready to test. And here's the code that you can use. And you have the options if you want the code in Python, C# or JavaScript. Now, let's take it to the next level. And for the next level, we have a wonderful tool. What is this tool, Sarah, in Visual Studio Code that we love to build agents in Microsoft 365?
The Agent Toolkit.
The Agent Toolkit. Let me share one more time the presentation so you can present.
I feel like I was at school then, Daniel. Like
you were
pushed in.
Yes, and you were paying attention for sure.
I was not answering yes. Chat at all.
Okay, Sarah, take us there.
Oh, this is one of my. I say this about. There's 3 of my favorite slides in this deck. So genuinely. So thanks, Daniel. I think it's again. We really wanted to show the audience today, like kind of starting with like an agent, and then we're going to kind of take you on this journey over the next kind of hour or so, right? So given everything you've learned so far and we've shared, we really want to talk about then how can you take this agent, and yes, we showed you Foundry, but think about, you may have an agent somewhere else as well. You may have it hosted, on your own infrastructure. You've already invested in it, etc. And what do we mean by bring your agent to M365 Copilot? And really is around taking this agent, just like you saw Daniel create in Foundry, and how can you actually surface it inside of Microsoft 365 Copilot? And I say surface it in a very specific way, because that's what you're doing. We talk about Copilot as the UI for AI. And really what we mean by that is the idea of you can actually access your agent directly from that same single pane of glass. And as you can kind of see, when we talk about maximizing return on investment, the idea is that you don't have to really do much different to the agent. You really are just going to have to be really wrapping it in the Microsoft 365 Agents SDK so that it can accept activities. And then you can essentially go and deploy that agent. So it's surfaced in Copilot. That's what we mean when we talk about bring your own agents to Microsoft 365 Copilot. So as a user, you can then just go and access an agent that's built and, maybe hosted somewhere else. But then also maybe I've also made an agent in Agent Builder as well. So it means I can access it in one place. And the toolkit allows that, yeah. Right?
Right. So the toolkit basically simplifies all the process to make this happen, right? And this is an extension in Visual Studio Code. And let me show you basically how do we make it possible. All right, so let me share one more time in my screen.
The best way to think about it, Daniel, right, is the easy button, right? The agents toolkit, everything about bringing your own agent is really the easy button. That's the intention of the toolkit. We want really one place to go that you can go get started and use the SDK.
That's right. So this is Visual Studio Code. Here in extensions, you can search for the Microsoft 365 Agents Toolkit. This is the extension. I have already installed the extension here. And I have an agent that is already running. But let me show you very quickly the experience from scratch. So imagine that you are building an agent from ground zero, right? And you want to bring this agent here. So the toolkit allows you to do it very quickly and easy. So you click Create New Agent App, and you have the different types of agents. You have declarative agents that basically are using Copilot orchestration and foundation models. Is more a declarative approach. So you specify through YAML files, instructions, knowledge, and actions. It's a lightweight code. And with the Agents SDK and the Agents Toolkit, we have a custom engine agent. Why custom engine agent? Because you can customize pretty much everything. Orchestration, LLM, tools, knowledge, actions, you can customize pretty much everything. Right? And the toolkit provides samples that you can easily use to start very quickly, right? So we have we are going to start with a basic custom engine agent. And then let me show you very quickly here. So we have in Azure AI Foundry the information that the toolkit is asking us. So it's asking for the Azure OpenAI, in this case, key to get access to the language model. This is not the agent that we built, it's only asking the key for the language model. So, and basically we can copy this here. I will void after this presentation so we don't get any keys leak out. Then we're gonna specify the service endpoint, and the same thing you have in Azure AI Foundry, you have the service endpoint that is hosting the large language model, in this case GPT-4o. I will paste in here. Then I will need to specify the deployment name of the model. In this case, is GPT-4o. I want to code this agent in JavaScript. I will select where do I want to host this agent, and I will specify a name for this agent. And then I will click Enter, and the magic with the toolkit happened. I have already an agent pre-provisioned, that is basically this one. And this is the magic that the toolkit is doing for you. So it's scaffolding all the different files and folders for this agent to work in the Microsoft 365 Copilot ecosystem. So you have a package, you can specify the logo of the agent, you can specify also the company developer name and so on. The manifest is, one of the intelligent parts that in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem we are reading to bring your agent and display the agent in Teams, in Microsoft 365 Copilot. Then you have here the infrastructure that basically these files allows you to deploy to Azure and to host your agent in the cloud. So we are providing a sample infrastructure for you. And I would say the most important part are these files, the agent.js, and where you will see what Sarah was mentioning, how we are wrapping this agent into the libraries of the agent SDK. In this case, we have agents activity and agent hosting, the libraries that we are bringing here. And here, basically, you will see that we are calling the Azure OpenAI models that we were mentioning before. You are defining memory storage. You have defining an agent application that we are going to be calling in the code. And then you have the activities where, depending on the activity that you are listening from the code, the agent SDK will help you to provide the right behavior. For example, in here, whenever there is a new member added, we are going to display this text. And when there is a new message, we're going to send to the large language model the system prompt and the user prompt. So this is a very basic example. And let me show you very quickly how the toolkit allows you to test this agent. So the toolkit provides the tools, in this case, the playground to test this agent. And it's simple. By clicking here in the preview your app, where do you want to test this agent? In this case, we want to test in the Microsoft 365 Agents Playground. You don't need any Microsoft 365 account. You don't need Azure. You don't need anything to test it here. For this environment, obviously for the agent, you need Azure. But in this case, that's the playground where you can test this agent very quickly. And let's ask a question. Hi, what can you do? And you will see that the response is different from the agent that we created originally, right? So this agent is a generic one, so it can provide answers to questions, problem solving, writing assistant, and so on and so forth. And this is how you can build basically from scratch an agent, and then you can tweak, obviously, in the agents.js file, you can tweak it more and more to make it more to your liking. But now what happens to the agent that we created here in Azure AI Foundry? Do you remember this agent was an agent that responded to questions about Microsoft 365 deployments, toolkit, and SDK? So what happens with this agent? Now, let me switch back to Sarah. She is going to explain a little bit more about what are the components of the agents SDK that help us wrap this agent into, an agent for Microsoft 365 Copilot. And then we will come back here.
Nice. Great demo, Daniel. And I think that I wanted to call out, just as we switch back to slides, like the components that Daniel covered are really important, right? You saw like the manifest and the piece which is really around deploying. The manifest is very specific to Microsoft for Teams and M365 Copilot. And then you saw the actual code, the agent file, the actual agent itself, and everything as well. So really, when we think about what does it mean to leverage the toolkit and the SDK? The toolkit is the mechanism that you're using to really go ahead and make working with the SDK easier. You saw from Daniel's demo that it scaffolded not just the agent for you, but it actually scaffolded the fact that, okay, you're gonna want to test this. We've got Agent Playground. You want to test it locally. But then also you're going to want to get this into M365 Copilot, and you're going to want to get this into Teams. And so what's the logical path there? Once you've tested it locally in the playground, you're actually going to want to actually test it in the channel of the client you're actually going to be using and deploying it in. Because every client interprets the code a little bit differently, right? It's different UX. And so this is what the toolkit really helps you do and helps you manage and work with the SDK.
Now, going deeper into the SDK, what are the components that the SDK is bringing to the toolkit. Can you elaborate more on that?
Oh yeah, like how long we got for this, Daniel? So like kind of keep me honest with time. So this is a really important bit, because you might be kind of wondering everything that kind of Daniel and I have been talking about, and especially remember my favorite slide of the first one, which had kind of all the components that we kind of stacked up. You might be kind of wondering, well, okay, well, you've got the toolkit which scaffolds everything, but what does the SDK actually do? Like, what's it helping? We're not bringing the model. We're not bringing the actual orchestrator either. So the Agents SDK specifically does not include any AI or any orchestration. It doesn't include any tools either. Essentially, what it does is it really has that, it manages the surround of an agent. And what do I mean by surround? It really means around the authentication, the conversation management, and the actual working with the channels, which we refer to as channel adapters. So I'll start with the one in the middle, which is conversation management. What do I actually mean by conversation management? So everyone always talks about orchestration. They already talk about models. But really, how do you manage the actual conversation and the interaction of an agent? And this doesn't just mean human to agent interaction. This also means, how do you manage state, storage? How do you manage the actual authentication between different services that the agent will need? Again, regardless of if it's talking to a human or interacting with a human. And so this is really what we're talking about when we talk about conversation management. It's all the stuff in between all of those blocks that you saw on that first slide. And then the authentication is really important, because this works hand in hand with channel adapters, but also it helps. We actually also help you do auth between, like manage the agent identity itself, because you're going to need to use that identity or at least OBO on a user downstream to other services like tools that you're going to be using in the conversation as well. And so we try and do a lot of the heavy lifting. We try and almost be invisible to you. We obviously give you the SDK to help with the conversation management. So it makes it easier for you to actually work and create agents and leverage the orchestration in the model. Now, channel adapters. So on the right hand, what do we mean by channel adapters? This is really where, as much as this conversation is all around M365 Copilot and how do you bring your agent to M365 Copilot, it really does this because we actually, a key part of our SDK is we include many different channel adapters. And what that means is we can plug your agent into not just M365 Copilot, but also there's around 15 plus, there's about 17 now, I think, Daniel, right? And there's about 15 to 17 actual channels that we support straight out of the box for you. So once you've configured your agent to actually work with the Agents SDK, essentially talk activity protocol, once you can use that, you can actually unlock all of those channels, as well as actually create your own. So we actually have a channel adaptation kind of like framework, a channel adapter framework, that you can actually go ahead and create your own channel adapter for your own channel as well. Why is this important? It's important because you want to surface your agent and to be able to actually interact with your employees or your customers. And note how I said employees and customers. This isn't just for internal consumption either. If you want this working on a website, or if you want this working externally to your organization, it also supports that mode as well. It's really about the client and if that's internal or external. So I think that's probably a good whistle stop tour, Daniel. Yep. Anything else you want me to double click on?
I think you nailed it. You cover pretty much. So let's make it real. So let me share my screen one more time. All right, so let's go back to our agent in Azure Foundry. And I was mentioning, you have here the code that you can use and bring that code into the agents toolkit. So here in the toolkit, let me show you here. So this was the basic agent here. And let me show you how we can improve this code in the agent Azure AI example. So we are bringing basically the full container of the Azure AI Foundry agent service here to the agent.js file. So that container already handles threads. It understands if you, as a question, you understand the context before. you can add agents to that agent as well. So it doesn't matter how complex that agent it is here. And in the different components that Sarah was mentioning, you don't necessarily have to use all of the components of the agent SDK. You can use one of the components for wrapping the agent for what you need, right? So that's the flexibility also that the agent SDK is providing. So in this case, we are calling an Azure AI project. So we are bringing that project here. We are bringing credentials, default credentials from the Azure AI Foundry agent created. So, and we are building on top of the previous code that we have created, right? So in this case, the difference is that in the onActivity message, what we are doing here is calling the Azure AI Foundry agent, sending the thread for thread management, so it understands the context, and it gives back to us the response to have a proper response with full context about what you are saying. And we are going to share all of these examples in basically for you to start digging deeper. And you have a great partner in crime that is GitHub Copilot. Basically, you can bring the code from the Azure AI Foundry, and you can ask GitHub Copilot to give you a hand and to modify the agent.js to make it work in this case for the project that we are bringing. So a good tip for use in bringing agents to Microsoft 365 Copilot. And everything else is pretty much the same. So some modifications that you will see is that the environments, the secrets will change here. You will be adding additional secrets from the Azure AI Foundry agent beyond the Azure OpenAI project here. And we are going to avoid these secrets in any case anyone wants to take a screenshot and use it. But basically, that's how it works. Now, let's test this out. So I'm going to test this agent again in the Microsoft 365 Agents Playground. Very simple and easy from the Microsoft 365 Agents Toolkit. So, and it's going to install all the dependencies and so on and so forth to make it happen.
I think we want to double click, Daniel, at this point. So just a reminder, I just want to do a reminder for our audience, you don't have to do anything different at this point. You don't need to instantiate a dev tunnel or anything. The toolkit does everything for you. You've got Agent Playground. You can just test local, because that's basically what you're going to want to do when you've got all your, when you're okay, I just want to be able to actually interact with my agent, check it works, etc. You just go into Agent Playground, hit play, and you're good. And you get what you see on the screen that Daniel was showing you. You don't have to he's not doing anything special behind the scenes here. And we are doing it live. So it's very quick and easy, and it works. So let's ask another question to this agent. Remember, this is not the simple one that we created. This is bringing the Azure AI agent here. And let's ask this question. Hi, what can you do? And it will take a couple of seconds. So, and you will be able to see that you can improve the responses of this agent with streaming responses, with citation, and so on and so forth. In this case, this basic example is just bringing the information from the Azure AI agent service and showing it here. And here you have it. The agent now is talking about what we instructed in Azure AI Foundry, right? In this case, an agent that is going to help you create other agents for low code, for pro code, and general decision, and so on forth. So let's ask a follow-up question. Let's say, what about the difference between the M365 Agents Toolkit and SDK? So it will understand the context as well from what it previously was answering to us. I think you called out something really important as well, Daniel, is you kind of see how it's going to just kind of dump the response kind of immediately. So what the Agents SDK does is we've got support for streaming. And so you can absolutely create a nicer experience where it'll actually go ahead and stream back to you rather than kind of just throw the response, especially larger responses like you see on the screen. So that's another thing that when we talk conversation management, this is again what we mean. Exactly. So you can make it as complex as you want. So that's pretty much the message here. And you see, it understands the context, it understands what we are talking about, and it provides a response. So I think we have accomplished part of the mission, right, to bring this agent into Microsoft 365 Copilot. But let's take a little bit further. And now
what are the options for deployment. So let me share one more time our deck so you can understand a little bit more about this. So, all right, so, and again, this is how you can deploy and test basically your agent, right? So you can use the agents playground. You don't need any subscription to use the agents playground. It just works. And then if you want to take it to the next step, you can provision this agent. And by provision, what we mean is you need to set resources in the cloud where this agent is going to live, right? So that it can work for anybody in Microsoft 365 Copilot. So that's the next step, right? Provisioning resources and deploying these resources. Or you can deploy your agent to Azure manually. But again, we have the wonderful Microsoft 365 Agents toolkit that can help you do all of that for you. So let me show you one more time. Let me share my screen one more time.
And this is really the software development lifecycle we were talking about, right? Like if you think about it just really as that, it's been around for quite some time now. When we think about the software development lifecycle, it's testing locally. I'm making sure I've got everything like local. Now I want to actually go and provision and actually see it working. And again, it's just the lifecycle moving on. It's just we're working with agents now. And so that's the best way to think about it.
Exactly. And here you see in the toolkit, you have these three buttons: provision, deploy, and publish to your org. So it's as simple as click here in provision, and it will take a couple of minutes. And what it will be doing is basically it reads the file here in the Azure Bicep, and it has in here all the basic infrastructure to host this agent in Azure, right? Then you can provision this, and then you can deploy. So because of time, I have already completed this step for all of you to see. And this is the Azure portal. And here, what we have done basically is what I was saying: provision and deploy the agent into the cloud. What do we have here? So we have, I would say, three basic components. So we have the first one that is an app service. And basically, these are the machines in the cloud where we are going to host the agent. And this is the Azure App Service. We have the identity from the bot itself. And we have a very special service. And I call it very special service because it's very important in what we are describing. And this is the Azure Bot Service. Sarah, can you tell us more about what the Azure Bot Service is about and how it works with the Agents SDK and toolkit?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, what it does here with the ABS Azure Bot Service. So, Daniel, can you click on configuration?
Yes.
It will help me do less hand waving. So you can kind of see here that it has your messaging endpoint. So you've got your messaging endpoint here, which is really essentially the route that your code, which is what the app service that Daniel just showed you, that's basically your code being hosted. And this is the messaging endpoint. The ABS is basically going to receive the message from Teams or M365 Copilot and be like, great, awesome, I've got a message. It's in Teams language. And I need to go convert it to an activity, which is what we talk about, activity protocol. And then we want to go and send it over to this route, to the code that's basically ready and waiting to go and receive that activity payload. And the reverse just happens on the return trip. So then your code the SDK basically goes and deserializes that. You go ahead and, it performs the functions that you saw Daniel walk you through. And then when you send an activity back, the SDK creates the activity payload, sends it back, and ABS then goes and translates it back to something that Teams or M365 Copilot or whatever channel you have set up can understand. So this is really one of the core features and functionality of ABS, not just about hosting the messaging endpoint, but it also manages that round trip for you with the essentially the creation of the activity payload that your code understands. And this is why you can bring any agent that uses any AI any orchestrator that's hosted wherever you want it to be, because really it performs this functionality for you. Yeah, hopefully that's a good summary, Daniel. Let me know if you want me to expand on anything else.
Yeah, and also on top of that, I think this is the beauty of the service, is that you can publish that agent to multiple channels. So you have built it once, and you can publish this agent to multiple channels, not only to Copilot, but to plus 17 channels, as you can see here. So it's really, really powerful and really.
And you can manage that in your code, right, Daniel? So
exactly.
like in it you can, as much as it's one agent, one code being, hosted, you can actually manage the different behavior in that code. So if you need it to act specifically, like specific for Teams rather than Facebook, for example, you can absolutely do that, because you can just go ahead and inspect the activity on receiving the activity and go perform actions on that channel. So you've got the information from that activity payload.
So let's test that this is actually working. So remember, we had our agent locally, we deployed to Azure, and then let's test if this is actually working here in Azure. So we have this functionality test in web chat directly into the Azure bot service, and then let's ask, hi, what can you do? One more time.
And sorry, Daniel, I keep jumping in and talking over you, so I'm really sorry. I'm trying to add some extra sugar here. So what you see on your screen right now is what we kind of refer to as web chat. Essentially, this web chat is a UX component that you can use if you want to, and we actually have samples on the Agents SDK repo that's already wired in. So you can go and use this with Copilot Studio. This is actually the same client that Copilot Studio uses, and you can separate this out from Copilot Studio and use it independent as well, just with our SDK if you want to. So you can absolutely use this UX.
Yeah, in a matter of seconds, you can have this in your website.
Yeah.
Very quickly. So as you can see here, the agent is working successfully, is responding to how do you build Microsoft 365 agent. So nice, is really good. Now the question, the $1 million question. Now, how do we make this agent work in Copilot? All right. So, and that's the next button here in the life cycle. So provision, deploy, and the next one is publish to your organization. So it's gonna do all the magic behind the scenes, to bring this agent, the package, to the Microsoft 365 cloud, and then make it available to your clients in Teams, thanks to Azure Bot Service. So Azure Bot Service is going to be the fronting towards Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365 Copilot for all of this to work. So I have already deployed that agent. Just wanted to give you a sense on what is the experience from an admin perspective.
Daniel, we should call this the magic of the manifest.
The magic of the manifest, exactly. So this is the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So after you have published to your organization, you will navigate to the admin.microsoft.com, and in here you have the Copilot side panel, and you have the agent inventory, basically all the agents that the tenant where we are deploying have available. And in this case, this agent that by default, the IT admin needs to approve where this agent is going to be deployed, for what users this agent is going to be deployed. In this case, remember the basic AI agent that I created. So this is showing for this example. So this basic AI agent is going to be ready to be used for customers if I accept and I publish this AI agent. So you can see who's the publisher, when was updated, and additional details that because of time we are not going to dig deeper into it, but you can click publish, and basically this agent will be deployed to the Microsoft 365 Copilot environment, right? And then,
Daniel, could we just, maybe what we could do just for like 60 seconds is so everyone, you saw Daniel kind of hit publish on Toolkit, and then kind of suddenly now you have an agent in your Mac admin, right? And in the Microsoft admin. What actually happened Essentially, the toolkit constructed, the template already had the manifest file already there, and it basically links and points to the address of your agent, or essentially the agent ID. And so nothing's hosted in Teams or M365 Copilot, as in like it's not hosting your agent. Your agent is still being hosted wherever you've published it. So you saw in Daniel's demo, the app service, again, that's your running code. You saw Azure bot service. And so you can see this manifest that Daniel's showing. What's happened and what the toolkit's done for you is it's basically packaged that up, and you can see a couple of other files as well that basically the infrastructure requires you to do. And it's basically a postcard for your agent. It's basically an address and a bunch of details that then the Teams infrastructure or the M365 Copilot infrastructure knows where to then direct requests to. And so it's all managed via the Microsoft Admin Center, as Daniel said, that then your admins can go ahead and approve, not approve, etc. That's really what it is. Sorry to interrupt you, Daniel. I wanted to make sure that we cover that completely.
And now what we have done is deploy this agent to the entire organization, as you saw here in the user section, and we are ready to finish the deployment. Right, and it's deployed. Now, the moment of truth. Let's open Microsoft 365 Copilot, right? And this is an early agent that I have, the one that I show you about, the Azure AI Foundry agent that speaks about Microsoft 365 agent development. So this is that agent. But if you see here in all agents, you will see all the agents built by your org that will appear here for you to start using in this case. So let's try the Azure AI the agent that I just developed. So let's use this conversation starter. How can you help me? And you see, we have a nice streaming response already embedded into Microsoft 365 Copilot. Obviously, you can optimize this even further. And here you have it. We have completed the end-to-end flow. So you have the Azure AI agent service now powering an agent that is working in Microsoft 365 Copilot. We use the Microsoft 365 Agents SDK and toolkit. You saw the full end-to-end flow. Obviously, you can deploy this agent to other channels as we saw through Azure Bot Service, and then you can have the power at your fingertips here. Sarah, is this only working for Azure AI Foundry, or can this work for any other orchestration?
It can work for anything. So we actually have a sample for OpenAI Agents SDK for Python. Like whatever orchestrator, there's a LangChain. It uses LangChain for orchestration. Like there's a bunch of samples on our repo. There's actually the toolkit that has a bunch of those samples in as well. So really, and we actually work with a lot of customers that have their own custom orchestrator as well. They actually have already built their own infra, and maybe you want to go and wrap that up and surface that in M365 Copilot. You can absolutely do that. So we are so unopinionated on the SDK side when it comes to whatever orchestrator and model that you want to use.
Right. So you pretty much can configure all of the blocks that Sarah mentioned at the beginning of the show about the agent architecture, thanks to the Agents Toolkit and Agents SDK. All right, we are ready pretty much to close the show. Just wanted to share with you some awesome resources that we have available. And this is what basically Sarah was mentioning. You can visit this AKA link where you can find the code samples, the basic templates. You have more advanced samples using LangChain, using other orchestrations, and so on and so forth. And then you can connect also with the Agents Toolkit and our documentation in Microsoft 365 Copilot extensibility. So I think we are done.
I think we've got a bonus. We've got a bonus Learn article as well. So everything that Daniel and I have covered today, we actually have it written up for you in Microsoft Learn as well. So if you're a reader, if you want to go take a look at that and kind of remind yourself of what we talked about, you can go check that out as well. So we'll make sure that that's in the material that you get.
Sure. Perfect. We will be answering the question in chat in the next few minutes, but Sarah, any questions that top of mind you would like to address from the chat that we can cover in the last minutes?
I think you did a fantastic job, Daniel, with the demos and showing our audience exactly how to get started. There was one comment I answered it, but I want to call it out. It was a fantastic question. It was basically like, oh, you've shown us how to kind of do this kind of simple experience. What happens if I want to do something more complex? The answer is it doesn't matter what you do in your agent. It's really the mechanism is still the same of getting your agent to M365 Copilot. So really that was the focus of today, is we really want to show how can you actually get your agent to M365 Copilot. It's exactly the same regardless of what your agent is doing. The only thing that, and we can maybe do some follow-on sessions in the future, the only thing that might get a little bit more complex is if you're doing specific things around authentication and so on. And we can cover that in a future section, but you saw how easy it is from Daniel's demo. The same steps apply. So I just wanted to call that out, really.
That's right. So, okay, awesome. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
we
everyone.
really enjoyed sharing this with all of you, and stay tuned for the next upcoming Understanding Microsoft Agents coming soon. So you will learn more about the wonderful technology that we have for all of you. So thank you so much, and see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.